Greetings, fellow horror fans. Well, our look at the Child's Play franchise continues on with Child's Play 2. 2 years after the death of Chucky, the Playhouse Corporation, manufacturer of the Good Guy doll line, is attempting to recover from the negative publicity surrounding the event. To reassure its stockholders that there was nothing actually wrong with the doll, they acquire Chucky's remains and reassemble him. During the process, a power source fatally electrocutes one of the assembly line workers and Chucky is reanimated. Mr. Sullivan, the CEO of the company, orders his assistant Matson to dispose of the doll. Meanwhile, Andy Barkley, now 8 years old, has been in foster care ever since his mother was institutionalized for backing up his claims that his doll was alive. Andy is brought in by foster parents Phil and Joanne Simpson. The fellow is apprehensive about Andy's needs. Andy later meets Kyle, a cynical, street-smart teenage girl the Simpsons are also fostering. Chucky discovers Andy's whereabouts by using Matson's car phone to call Grace Poole, the manager of Andy's foster center, before suffocating Matson with a plastic bag. Chucky retreats to Simpson's home and takes the place of another good guy doll, Tommy, which he buries in the backyard. Andy begins to bond with Kyle after the two are punished for an heirloom Chucky destroyed. That night, Chucky reveals himself to Andy, but Kyle enters the room before he can complete the voodoo chant to possess him. Kyle doesn't believe Andy's claim that Chucky is alive. Phil and Joanne barge into the room and blame Kyle for the chaos. Phil throws Chucky into the basement in frustration. Chucky realizes his body is becoming human again after suffering a nosebleed. The next day, Chucky secretly follows Andy to school and defaces his homework, resulting in Andy being assigned detention. Chucky kills Andy's teacher, Miss Kettlewell, by stabbing her with an air pump and then beating her with a yardstick, but Andy manages to escape. Andy tries to warn his foster parents about Chucky, but Phil refuses to believe him and considers returning him to the foster center. That night, Andy sneaks to the basement to confront Chucky, but the doll overpowers him. When Phil arrives to investigate, Chucky trips him, causing him to fall down the stairs and break his neck. Joanne blames Andy for Phil's death and sends him back to the foster center. Kyle discovers Tommy buried outside and realizes Andy was telling the truth. She rushes to warn Joanne, only to discover that Chucky has already killed her. Chucky ambushes Kyle and forces her to drive him to the foster center. Chucky stabs Grace to death and captures Andy. Kyle pursues them through the streets into the nearby Playhouse factory, but is unable to find them before Chucky knocks Andy unconscious and completes the ritual. However, the spell fails as he has spent too much time in his doll body and is now permanently trapped. Enraged, Chucky chases Andy and Kyle through the factory. After Chucky murders a factory technician, Kyle and Andy manage to mutilate his body with assembly equipment. Chucky escapes and attacks again, knocking out Kyle. Andy is able to open an emergency release valve, showering Chucky with molten plastic, and seemingly killing him. After saving the unconscious Kyle from being killed on a conveyor belt, the two approach the half-melted Chucky, who slowly springs back to life. Kyle shoves a high-pressure air hose into his mouth, inflating his head until it explodes, finally killing him. Andy and Kyle exit the factory, unsure of where to go. Oof. So anyway, let's take a look at the production of this movie. United Artists purchased the script, the original Child's Play, partially because UA President Tony Thomopoulos and MGM/UA Communications Chairman Lee Rich believed it had the potential for multiple sequels. Producer David Kirshner had asked Tom Holland to return as director, but declined due to his conflicts with producer David Kirshner and UA during the first film. John LaFia, who would turn out as director because he had no experience, was hired by Kirshner after directing The Blue Iguana. Mancini also agreed to return. Mancini and LaFia decided to set the film at a foster home due to LaFia's experience living in a large family. MGM/UA also commissioned a screenplay from Mark Petrocarducci in case it was dissatisfied with Mancini's script, but it was not used. Carducci's script would have involved Andy in a mental institution after the murders in the first film. The sequel was in pre-production and was set to begin filming on October 15, 1989, when UA President Richard Berger told producer David Kirshner to put the film on hold as the studio was about to be acquired by the Australian group Quintex, whose director Christopher Scassi intended to ban the studio from producing horror films. Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, Columbia Pictures, 20th Century Fox, The Price Company, Carlico, New Line Cinema, The Walt Disney Company, Universal Pictures expressed interest in picking up the film rights to the series and sequel. Disney, which was working with Kirshner to develop Hocus Pocus, was especially interested in purchasing the series under its Touchstone Pictures label because it wanted to create a horror-themed attraction at its Disney MGM Studios theme park. However, Universal won the rights bid after Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy assisted Universal's Sid Sheinberg in convincing Kirshner to accept a negative pickup deal with the studio. Originally, the film was intended to open with the courtroom scene of a jury sentencing Karen Barkley to a mental institution for insisting that Chucky was alive. Both Catherine Hicks and Chris Sarandon were intended to reprise their roles as Karen and Detective Mike Norris from the first film. Sarandon recalled to People in 2023 that he declined to return when asked because Holland would not be involved. However, their scenes were cut from the scripts because of budgetary constraints, and as a result of their omission, the film is much shorter than the other installments in the series. The courtroom scene would be recycled at the end as the ending of Curse and Chucky in 2013. It also would have contained a scene where Chucky's remains were held in a police evidence locker alongside Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers' masks, an idea which came to be reused in Bride of Chucky in 1998. Jenny Agutter would be cast as Joanne Simpson after Veronica Cartwright was considered. Garrett Graham would beat out Jeffrey Jones, Tim Matheson, and Charles Gordon for the role of Philip Simpson. Shannon Doherty, R.I.P., Kirsty Swanson, Holly Marie Combs, and Christina Elise all auditioned for the role of Kyle. Although Elise nearly missed her follow-up audition to film an episode of Baywatch, she got the role. Principal photography began on November 6, 1989 with a $12 million budget. Since Kirshner was busy after getting hired to run Hanna-Barbera, production was supervised by Robert Latham Brown. Unlike the first film, which was shot mostly on location in Chicago, most of the second film was shot at Universal Studios and Universal Studios lot in Universal City, California. The Playhouse factory sequence was shot in an abandoned warehouse in Valencia, California. Brad Dourif recorded all of his dialogue as Chucky in advance, which allowed his words to match up with his facial movements better than in the first film. Kevin Yeager returned to do the special effects and puppetry, directing several scenes of the film himself. Ed Gale was rehired to play the body of Chucky, but unlike the first film, very few of his scenes were used. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees picketed the shoot to demand that the production company stop using non-union employees, with the crew voting to sign a union contract in January 1990, shortly before filming wrapped. Graham Revell, whose only scoring experience was the 1989 Australian psychological horror Dead Calm, was hired to compose the music after lying to the studio that he had composed an orchestral composition before. Kevin Carlson, Van Snowden, and Anne Brock Winkles IV were credited as part of the puppeteers of Chucky. Now on to the music. The score of the film was composed by Graham Revell and conducted as well as orchestrated by Shirley Walker. Unlike the first film that has electronic music, the music for the sequel is completely orchestral. And let's take a look at the novelization. A tiny novelization of the film was later written by Matthew J. Costello. The author edited in some of his own plot scenes exclusive to the novel, such as going deeper into Barkley and Chucky's past. Chucky is characterized to have an absent father and his abusive mother being a dwarf. Chucky got teased a lot, and because of this, and later strangled his mother to death. Also, Chucky was put in special classes when he was younger. During the scene at the factory, Chucky sees a bunch of good guy dolls and wishes that he could bring them to life to do his bidding. This was partially used as the plot of the film Cult of Chucky. Interesting. And now finally, let's take a look at a slight controversy surrounding this film. It was later revealed that the movie was a favorite of Martin Bryant, who committed the Port Arthur massacre. So overall, as a follow-up to the first movie, this one is pretty good, although, yeah, I do kind of wish that they had included the courtroom scene, but, hey, bakers can be choosers, I guess, so, yeah. So overall, I give Child's Play 2, I give it 4 Good Guy Dolls out of 5. My name is Tuna Moore as we took with the following film, Child's Play 3. So, until then, in the words of Charles Lee Ray, give me the power, I beg of you!